very excited. Joining me right now is Dr. Stephen Covey, world-renowned author, famous with his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And you've come out with a new book now dedicated to people with diabetes. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with Diabetes.
It's more a booklet.
A more booklet, yeah, here it is. But powerful.
It's free.
Powerful, and you've teamed up with the American Association of Diabetes Educators to really help people, which I really admire. So tell us a little bit about how this came about.
Well, it was actually initiated by Bayer Diabetic Care.
Okay.
And they asked if I had an interest in it, and I was so interested in the 7 action steps that they recommend in connection with the 7 habits, but basically they all come under habit 2. Mm-hmm. You know, begin with the end in mind, what your goals are. Mm-hmm. And so I became interested, and I also am a great believer that our whole society needs to work on prevention rather than just treatment. And that we have to work on the structures and systems to reinforce a prevention paradigm rather than just a treatment paradigm.
Well, right now it's all moving backwards, with children now getting adult onset diabetes with the obesity rates. So what do you think's how do we get from unprevention to prevention?
Well, that's where the 7 habits come in, because it's all based upon helping the person take responsibility for their own life. And it not only will help them with their diabetes or other chronic problems, it'll help them in the totality of their life. Every aspect of their life will be benefited from it because they take responsibility. They try to think through the 4 dimensions of life: the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and the social emotional, body, mind, heart, and spirit, and come up with goals that are important to them. And then if they achieve those goals, and you start small, so that if you make a promise, you keep it, and make it keep a little higher, until your honor becomes greater than your moods. And when you have that kind of integrity, it influences your whole relationship with other people.
Okay, your honor becomes greater than your moods. So you're saying if people that are moody, they feel like doing it today, but they don't feel like doing it tomorrow, and they stop. So honor, does that have to do with the promise you've made to yourself?
Yeah, right. You make a small one and keep it.
Like I'm going to walk in the morning,
or I'm going to eat healthfully today, see. Then I make it and keep it, and that gives you a sense of integrity. And that's the source of your personal security. So then you can think win-win toward people. You don't have to think win-lose. You don't have to compete with people, because you have an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. You don't see life like a piece of pie, so if you get a big hunk of it, that means I have less. You see it as something that benefits all of us all of the time. And that's what happens when people have integrity. They have an abundance mentality, but most young people today grow up with a comparison-based identity. Their sense of worth comes from how well they stack up to others. So I'm going to try to teach to the group today that a negative thing, like a curveball, like diabetes they might be diagnosed with, is really a huge positive thing. And their very weakness will become their strength.
Well, I know I did that with my life. I've committed myself to helping people with diabetes, and I kind of hear this voice inside that just keep showing up. You know, I need to, because I get fearful, and so what you're saying is resonating with me.
It would, because you have dedicated yourself to that purpose. See, you want to leave a legacy. You want to bless people's lives. It's not just about you, it's about them.
Right.
And that's the whole spirit of win-win, which is habit 4. Habit 6 is synergy, which means we produce a solution that is better than what either one of us have proposed. And if people will learn how to do that, it's amazing how it will bless every other aspect of their life.
So is that like when I hired my producer, and he and I together produced stuff that I never even thought of.
Absolutely. See? You couldn't do it. You have a complementary team, so your strength is made productive. Your weakness is irrelevant through your producer's strength.
My weakness is irrelevant because he's picking up that side where I'm weak in.
It's like a quartet, you know.
And families can work like that.
Absolutely, and also medical teams that are trying to help people with diabetes. And the Indian talking stick is the key to that. Because as long as I listen to you and you feel understood, then you'll listen to me and I feel understood, so that our heart, in a sense, has had its satisfaction. We feel understood. Now we can get creative with our mind, come up with a better alternative. So Indian talking stick communication is the indigenous culture. And they actually, the Iroquois Federation taught that to the founding fathers of our country.
How did that happen?
It was early on in the 1700s, before the formation of the Constitution. I'm convinced that it influenced what took place in Philadelphia.
It was a magic time.
It was.
In interviewing diabetes educators over these last 3 days, one of the questions I asked is, what have you found that really works for you and your patients? And what I heard back every time is, when I listen, the patient tells me, and then everything improves after that.
Exactly.
And I think it's a bad setup. The doctors don't have time usually to really listen.
They're reinforced in another direction, see.
What do you mean?
Well, the financial whole plan is based on 1.5 minutes with a patient. So you give good patient care in 1.5 minutes.
Right.
And what air is to the body, to be understood is to the heart. And until
what air is to the body, to be understood is to the heart. Yeah.
Right. So they stop fighting. Then they start going for synergistic solutions.
I wish we could apply this to some of the hot spots around the world where people have stopped listening to each other.
Right. I'm working on an effort to do that right now in a huge group of very prominent, highly connected people, to build a better relationship between the United States and the world Arab community.
The world Arab?
The world Arab community. And
good.
These people are Christians and Jews and Islamic people, and they have, they're using Indian talking stick communication, and we literally have produced third alternative solutions that no one would have anticipated, because people feel understood. Madeleine Albright said to me, this would totally transform international diplomacy. All we do in the international diplomacy is figure out who has the power and what compromise can we arrive at. The idea of creating a third alternative that is better than what you proposed or what I proposed, like you and your producer, that's not known in most of that diplomatic effort.
Tremendous. Well, I can just see you're glowing. You have hope, and you feel you've been given gifts, and you're just going to keep going. And
live life in crescendo. That's my life's motto.
So the crescendo is like the end of the symphony when you're.
So the most important work's always ahead of you. So never behind you.
So how do you live life in crescendo?
Never retire.
Okay.
Retirement is a sick concept. You might retire from a job, but not from extremely meaningful work. Like you're doing extremely meaningful work, so you couldn't retire from that.
I could see doing this my whole life. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because it just keeps getting better. Well, Dr. Covey, this has been enlightening. I'm really enjoying our conversation. Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Our visit.
And I really appreciate what you're doing for people with diabetes. So
thank you.
It's sorely needed.